Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Supatantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sadrujatam Sahagana Raghunathan Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Taptakanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpadarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschyata Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gauravakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukham karoti vachalam pangam langayate giram yat kripatamaham bande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hare Krishna. So today we're going to go back to Canto 10 of Srimad Bhagavatam. Last time when we were discussing the Srimad Bhagavatam, we were actually reading the first 3 chapters of Canto 10, which is the advent of Lord Krishna. And then the chapter 2 of Canto 10 was about the prayers of the demigods when they realize that Lord Krishna is in the womb of Mother Devaki. The demigods come and offer their prayers. And when we did chapter 3 of Srimad Bhagavatam of Canto 10, we looked at the actual birth or appearance of Lord Krishna. And that particular canto ends with Lord Krishna being transported by Vasudeva in a little basket, crossing the Yamuna river that was turbulent, being protected by nothing but Anantashesh. And there, when Vasudeva reaches Gokul, Mother Yashoda has given birth to twins, a boy and a girl. So when the switch happens, so the Lord Krishna from Mathura merges into the Lord Krishna from Mother Yashoda in Gokul. And the Acharyas say it was dark, so Vasudeva never gets to see the other Krishna lying beside Mother Yashoda. He sees the girl child and picks up the girl child. And with that, he brings the girl child back into Mathura, enters the prison again, shackles himself, and before he knows it, all of the prison doors shut on their own by the power of Yogamaya. So in today's session, we're going to cover 3 chapters prayerfully. I'm not sure if you will be able to finish 3 chapters. So which is chapter 4, 5, and 6. The majority of today's session is going to be actually about the killing of the demon Putana. But we need to trace back a little bit of history and pick up from where we left off when we last read Canto 10. So a little bit background about Kamsa. Because in chapter 4, the title of the chapter is The Atrocities of King Kamsa. So Kamsa's father, or rather his stepfather, is Ugrasena. He was the king before Kamsa deposes of him. So Ugrasena's wife, Padmavati, she was abducted and raped by a demon called Gobila. And as a result of that abduction and the consequent rape, she becomes pregnant. She did not want to carry the child of a demon in her womb. However, the child clings to life in her womb, and eventually she gives birth. But she has no affection, no love for this child. She has hated this child from when she realized she was pregnant. So when she gives birth to a son, and she immediately curses her son that may you be killed by a true Yadava. This child was named Kamsa. After childbirth, not able to bear the despair of giving birth to the child of the semen of a demon, she takes her own life. So Kamsa grew up fearing and hating the Yadavas. So he was always plotting and planning to overthrow Ugrasena and take over the throne. His sole purpose was to subjugate the Yadavas. Putana loses a child during childbirth. Therefore, she becomes the de facto nurse for Kamsa, and she raises him as if he were her own. We can go a little bit more into Kamsa, but we will not do that today. We will stick to the chapter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read chapter 4, but I will not read all of it. I'm just going to outline the trajectory of this particular chapter 4, which is titled The Atrocities of Kamsa. So Vasudeva has re-entered the prison and he places the shackles on himself and all the prison doors slam shut under the influence of Yogamaya. And then Yogamaya begins to cry as the newborn. So immediately, the guards wake up from their slumber. You have to remember, they were put to slumber when Lord Krishna leaves the prison. Now that Yogamaya has made her presence known, the doorkeepers wake up. They realize that a child has been born to Devaki. And what do? They run to Kamsa to let him know. So Kamsa appears there immediately. And Devaki knows what he's about to do because he's already done that with 6 other children, sons. This time, because she has a girl child with her, she begs and pleads with Kamsa. Do not kill this child of mine. She says, this is a girl child after all. What good is going to come out of this for you by not only killing an infant, but a female child at that? But Kamsa does not heed her pleading. And if you read the shlokas, Devaki helplessly tells him, you know, you have imprisoned me. My other 6 children you've taken and killed them mercilessly. I want to remind you, I'm your younger sister. Why don't you just think about giving this child to me as a gift? Allow me to keep my daughter. Spare her life. Consider it as a gift from a brother to a sister. So like this, Devaki was begging Kamsa. But Kamsa, being so cruel at heart, he chastises his sister. He was kneeling in front of her. And he just grabs the newborn by her feet, and he tries to do the same thing that he did with the other 6 children, which is to smash them against a rock. But this child was not an ordinary child. And Shukadev Goswami refers to this child in Shloka 9 as Yogamaya Devi, the younger sister of Lord Vishnu. And he says, she slipped upward from Kamsa's hands and appeared in the sky as Devi, the goddess Durga, with 8 arms, completely equipped with weapons. The goddess Durga was decorated with flower garlands, smeared with sandalwood pulp, and dressed with excellent garments and ornaments made of valuable jewels, holding in her hands a bow, a trident, arrows, a shield, a sword, a conch shell, a disc, and a club. And being praised by celestial beings like Apsaras, Kinnaras, Uragas, Siddhas, Charanas, and Gandharvas, who worshipped her with all kinds of presentations, she spoke as follows. So Shloka 12. O Kamsa, you fool, what will be the use of killing me? the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has been your enemy from the very beginning and who will certainly kill you, has already taken his birth somewhere else. Therefore, do not unnecessarily kill other children. So Durga Devi is telling him, the child has already been born elsewhere. Where is this elsewhere? The elsewhere is in Gokul. Because Lord Krishna has already appeared to Mother Yashoda. So Durga Devi doesn't say the child appeared here in this prison and then was transferred over there to Gokul. She simply tells Kamsa, the child has already taken his birth somewhere else. So this was the 8th child of Devaki, this girl child. The 7th child was purportedly a miscarriage, where Lord Balaram is simply transferred from the womb of Mother Devaki to the womb of Mother Rohini. But somehow Devaki thought that she could appeal to the compassion of a demon by begging and pleading to let go of that girl child. But instead, what happened is that Durga Devi predicts his death. And this was the news that Kamsa got. He was always fearful about when this 8th child would appear. And he was thoroughly surprised that it was a girl child. So after speaking like this, Durga Devi disappears. And Shukadev Goswami actually writes in Shloka 13. After speaking to Kamsa in this way, the goddess Durga, Yogamaya, appeared in different places such as Varanasi and became celebrated by different names such as Annapurna, Durga, Kali, and Bhadra. Hearing these words, Kamsa was struck with wonder. He was thinking, how did this happen? The child has taken birth elsewhere and I have imprisoned Devaki and Vasudev for so long, waiting patiently for the 8th child to appear. And he was thinking to himself, I have caused such deep anguish to my own sister. So momentarily, Kamsa experiences compassion. Everything he had done so far was for nothing. The child was elsewhere. And he begins to speak to Devaki and Vasudev by telling them, alas, alas, I am indeed so sinful that exactly like a man-eater who eats his own child, I have killed so many sons born of you. Being merciless and cruel, I have forsaken all my relatives and friends. Therefore, like a person who has killed a Brahmana, I do not know to which planet I shall go, either after death or while breathing. And then Kamsa begins to speak philosophy. He tells Devaki what to do. This is providence. That the fact that you had to lose your 6 children was already written. They must have done some karma in their past life. So please don't lament for their death, Devaki. This is what he tells Mother Devaki. He says all living entities are under the control of the Supreme and they cannot always live together, which means families get separated. He says, your children have suffered their own misfortune. Therefore, please do not lament for them. And then he talks about how we are not these bodies, we are spirit souls. He's speaking about identity. He's telling Devaki, don't identify with the bodies of your dead children. You should know that the souls are eternal. So don't grieve for them. And feeling remorseful, he immediately releases both Vasudev and Devaki. And he begs for their forgiveness. And Vasudev, being a magnanimous personality, tells Kamsa, these things cannot be foreseen. And he forgives him. So Kamsa leaves the prison, takes the permission of Devaki and Vasudev to return back to his palace. And the next day morning, when Kamsa meets with his ministers, his servants, he tells them all about what had transpired the night before, how Mother Durga had proclaimed that the child had already appeared elsewhere. But the servants, being ideal servants of a demoniac king, they instigate Kamsa. They tell Kamsa, we are your best servants. We'll do two things. We will locate every infant that has taken birth within the last 10 days. We will go from town to town, village to village, and we will kill these children. And then they tell Kamsa, the demigods are terrified of you. What is exactly that you really need to worry about? The demigods are in fear of you. You don't have to worry about anything. You've already conquered them. And then they tell Kamsa, there is this one personality, you know. Who's that personality? Lord Vishnu. He is the Lord of all the demigods, who is worshipped everywhere on this earth, wherever religion is flourishing and wherever religious values are dominant. So we have to do something about that. So that's the second idea they come up with. The first idea is, let's kill all the children, all the infants that were born over the last 10 days. Their second idea is, let's disrupt all the sacrifices and yajnas being performed by the brahmanas. Let's kill the cows, because if there were no cows, there would be no ghee. And if there is no ghee, you cannot do yajna. And we have heard that the brahmanas and the cows and other offerings that are made into the fire are actually different body parts of Lord Vishnu. He is the enemy of us as Asuras. Everybody depends on Lord Vishnu for maintenance. And if he doesn't get his sacrifices, that's the easiest way to get rid of Lord Vishnu from the picture. So they remind Kamsa, he's already conquered the demigods. Just one person left that needs to be taken care of. Who's that personality? Lord Vishnu. As quickly as Kamsa had expressed his remorse to his sister and his brother-in-law, that quickly Kamsa changes his mind and consents to this idea. So he endorses their plan to kill all the infants that were born in his kingdom in the last 10 days. And he also approves of the idea of killing brahmanas, killing cows, and stopping all sacrifices to Lord Vishnu. So this is the end of chapter 4, where Shukadev Goswami is talking about Kamsa. There are a few more shlokas where Shukadev Goswami talks about the 3 gunas, how it influences us, how under the influence of Tamogun, one can even start persecuting saintly people. And Shukadev Goswami ends this particular chapter 4 of Canto 10 with the shloka number 46. My dear king, when a man persecutes great souls, all his benedictions of longevity, beauty, fame, religion, blessings, and promotion to higher planets will be destroyed. So with that, we're going to now move to chapter 5 of Canto 10. So chapter 5 of Canto 10 is titled The Meeting of Nanda Maharaj and Vasudeva. So Krishna is there in Gokul, and Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yashoda are jubilant because they have had a child when they were slightly older. So the entire village is overjoyed to find out that Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj had a son. So they celebrate Nandotsav the following day. And after all the celebrations are over, as part of the celebrations, what Nanda Maharaj does is a lot of things that are recited by Shukadev Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj. For example, how much charity Nanda Maharaj gave in celebration. What are all the purification ceremonies that took place? The Puranas were read, the Vedic hymns were chanted. So many different things Shukadev Goswami talks about. There's one particular shloka that I just want to read the translation of in English. This is shloka number 4 of chapter 5 of Canto 10. Shukadev Goswami says, O king, by the passing of time, land and other material possessions are purified. By bathing, the body is purified. And by being cleansed, unclean things are purified. By purificatory ceremonies, birth is purified. By austerity, the senses are purified. And by worship and charity offered to the Brahmanas, material possessions are purified. By satisfaction, the mind is purified. And by self-realization or Krishna consciousness, the soul is purified. So this is what Shukadeva Goswami is telling Parikshit Maharaj. So when we come to the purport, Prabhupada writes a very short purport to this particular shloka, 10.5.4. These are Shastric injunctions concerning how one can purify everything according to Vedic civilization. Unless purified, anything we use will infect us with contamination. In India, 5,000 years ago, even in the villages such as that of Nanda Maharaj, people knew how to purify things, and thus they enjoyed even material life without contamination. So Prabhupada is emphasizing that anything that we utilize in our life, whatever it may be, our mind, our senses, our intelligence, our objects, everything must be purified before it is utilized. This is Vedic culture that Prabhupada is talking about in the purport. That everybody knew what the various purification ceremonies that one needs to undertake. How to purify the land, how to purify your possessions, how to purify your body, how birth is purified, how your senses are purified. Your senses are purified by observing austerities. The best type of charity is charity given to Brahmanas. When you give charity in Brahmanas, your material possessions become purified. That's what Shukadeva Goswami is saying in the shloka. And how is the mind purified? The mind simply gets purified when we are satisfied. And how is the soul purified? Shukadeva Goswami is saying the soul is purified through self-realization. Otherwise, the soul is contaminated. So like this, all the ceremonies are over. So Nanda Maharaj decides that he needs to go to Mathura to pay tax to Kamsa. And he puts certain cowherd men in charge of the village, and he leaves with a few others to go to Mathura. Meantime, in Mathura, Vasudeva knows that Nanda Maharaj is coming, and he goes to meet his brother. So Vasudeva and Nanda Maharaj are brothers. Actually, they are half brothers. Their father married two different women, one from the Kshatriya clan and one from the Vaishya clan. So Nanda Maharaj is the child of the Vaishya woman, and Vasudeva is the child of the Kshatriya woman. So they are technically half brothers, and they're also good friends. So when Nanda Maharaj goes to Mathura, Vasudeva is anxious to meet him. And obviously Vasudeva wants to know what is the situation of his two sons, Balaram and Krishna. At the same time, he cannot reveal to Nanda Maharaj that Krishna was swapped with the girl child. He is anxious to hear about how Krishna is doing, but at the same time, he doesn't want to let Nanda Maharaj know that Krishna is his son. He wants Krishna to stay protected in Gokul. But he did ask Nanda Maharaj How is my boy Balaram doing? Is he getting along with all of you? I think he has accepted you and Yashoda as his parents. And I'm sure Mother Rohini is also taking very good care of them. So Vasudev wanted to make sure that the appearance of Lord Krishna was kept a secret. Otherwise, if Kamsa gets to find out, then Krishna would be in danger. So Vasudev has started the conversation, and now Maharaj Nanda responds by asking Vasudev, it is so unfortunate that at the hands of King Kamsa, he has killed so many of your children, born of Devaki, and your one daughter, the youngest child of all, entered into the heavenly planets. So it was clear that the news of the death of the 6 children and then the disappearance of Durga Devi had already reached Vrindavan and Gokul. So like this, they are exchanging their innermost emotions and compassion for each other. And then Vasudev urges Nanda Maharaj not to stay in Mathura for too long. He tells him, you've paid your taxes, please go back to Gokul immediately. I fear there are going to be disturbances in Gokul. So, hearing this, Nanda Maharaj, along with other cowherd men, takes permission from Vasudev and heads back to Gokul. So with this, we come to the end of chapter 5 of Canto 10. So today's session is primarily going to be focused on Putana. So we will get into chapter 6. So chapter 6 is titled The Killing of the Demon Putana. In Sanskrit, the title of this chapter is Putana Moksha. Yeah. Putana Moksha. So Nanda Maharaj bids adieu to Vasudev and heads back to Gokul. So as he is approaching Gokul on their bullock carts, he was thinking about what Vasudev had said. And he was thinking, whatever Vasudev says certainly cannot be false. And he thinks there must be some danger or disturbance in Gokul. That is why he was being given a warning. And as Nanda Maharaj thought about the danger for his beautiful son, Krishna, he was afraid. And he took shelter at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. Yeah. So I will share my screen because we will be reading some of the shlokas now. So shloka 1 of chapter 6 begins. Shukadev Goswami continued, my dear king, while Nanda Maharaj was on the way home, he considered that what Vasudev had said could not be false or useless. There must have been some danger of disturbances in Gokul. As Nanda Maharaj thought about the danger for his beautiful son Krishna, he was afraid, and he took shelter at the lotus feet of the Supreme Controller. Devotees always take the shelter of the Supreme Lord anytime that they are in danger or they feel that their family members are in danger. Srila Prabhupada advises that if we are beset with anxiety or any other disturbances mentally, he advises us that we should sit in front of the deities or in front of the pictures of the deities and chant loudly. And chant loudly the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. This will remove one's anxiety and disturbances. And therefore, you see here what Shukadev Goswami is writing, that the minute Nanda Maharaj, the thought came into his mind that his son could be in danger, what does he do? He begins to think about the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord always protects his devotees. Always. So, while Nanda Maharaj was returning to Gokula, the same fierce Putana, who Kamsa had previously engaged to kill babies, was wandering about in towns, cities, and villages, doing her nefarious duty. What was her nefarious duty? Her only job responsibility was to kill babies. That was her primary responsibility. My dear king, wherever people in any position perform their occupational duties of devotional service by chanting and hearing Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, there cannot be any danger from bad elements. Therefore, there was no need for anxiety about Gokula, while the Supreme Personality of Godhead was personally present. So, Shukadev Goswami, while he's reciting these pastimes, he does not want Parikshit Maharaj to get anxious that the Supreme Lord could be in danger. So he reassures him by telling him, as long as they are always chanting and hearing and glorifying the Lord, the devotees need not experience any anxiety because the Lord was personally present in Gokul. So he assures him, don't worry. Actually, the Sanskrit shloka is very nice. Nayatra shravanadini raksho gnai swakarmasu kurvanti satvatam bhartur yatu dhanyas cha tatrahi. So, wherever people in any position perform their occupational duties of devotional service by chanting and hearing, there cannot be any danger from bad elements. So the best kavacha for us is to chant the holy names of the Lord. Then all anxiety will dissipate. We need not worry. Therefore, there was no need for anxiety about Gokula, while the Supreme Personality of Godhead was personally present. So now Putana has entered into the picture. And Shukadev Goswami writes in the next shloka, once upon a time, Putana Rakshashi, who could move according to her desire and was wandering in outer space, converted herself by mystic power into a very beautiful woman and thus entered Gokula, the abode of Nanda Maharaj. And he uses some terms here. Kechari, he calls her Kechari. The word Kechari means somebody who has the ability to travel in outer space. Yoshitva, which means she had yogic powers. Mayaya Atmanam. And then he calls her Kamacharini, one who could move according to her own desire, which means, and if you read the very short purport written by Srila Prabhupada to this particular shloka, he writes here, Rakshashis learn mystic powers by which they can travel in outer space without machines. In some parts of India, there are still such mystical witches who can sit on a stick and use it to fly from one place to another in a very short time. This art was known to Putana. Assuming the feature of a very beautiful woman, she entered Nanda Maharaj's abode, Gokula. And then there is a description of Putana, of how beautiful she was externally. Her smile attracted the attention of all of the inhabitants of Vraja. And Shukadev Goswami writes, especially the men. When the gopis saw her, they thought that the beautiful goddess of fortune, holding a lotus flower in her hand, had come to see her husband Krishna. And in the next shloka, shloka 7, Shukadev Goswami narrates, while searching for small children, Putana, whose business was to kill them, entered the house of Nanda Maharaj unobstructed. Having been sent by the superior potency of the Lord, we'll come to this point in a minute, without asking anyone's permission, she entered Nanda Maharaj's room, where she saw the child sleeping in bed. His unlimited power covered like a powerful fire covered by ashes. She could understand that this child was not ordinary, but was meant to kill all demons. So, why does she enter the house unobstructed? And Shukadev Goswami says, having been sent by the superior potency of the Lord. What does this really mean? What is the superior potency of the Lord? So you see, when Putana enters Gokul, Lord Krishna, by his Shakti potency, attracts her to that house. Because Putana, what was happening when she comes to Gokul, Vrindavan? She's searching house by house. Are there any infants that she can kill? So because of the Leela Shakti of the Lord, he draws her to him. So she is inspired, first of all, to come to Gokul. And then she is inspired to enter into Nanda Maharaj's house because the Lord has decided, I have to inaugurate my demon killing pastimes. And this is the first demon that Lord Krishna kills while he was just 6 days old. It is said this pastime took place when the Lord was very much a newborn. So he had to inaugurate his pastimes of killing. And when she sees the Lord, she immediately gets that feeling, that premonition that this child is not ordinary. And then in the next shloka, in the 8th shloka, Shukadev Goswami writes, Lord Sri Krishna, the all-pervading super soul, lying on the bed, understood that Putana, a witch who was expert in killing small children, had come to kill him. Therefore, as if afraid of her, Krishna closed his eyes. Thus, Putana took upon her lap him who was to be her own annihilation, just as an unintelligent person places a sleeping snake on his lap, thinking the snake to be a rope. So there are a couple of intriguing points to make here in this particular 8th shloka. So we'll get into the Acharya's commentaries here in a minute. Shukadev Goswami calls Putana Balaka Marika Graham. Balaka Marika Graham, a witch very expert in killing small babies. And then he talks about what the Lord does. Nimilita ikshanaha. Immediately, the Lord just looks at her and immediately he closes his eyes. So why does Lord Krishna close his eyes? Different acharyas have said different things. So we're going to get into some of the meanings here. So one commentary says that when the first time that Krishna meets Putana and Putana meets Krishna, they are both perplexed. Now, why should the Supreme Lord be perplexed? He knows why she has come. But as an infant, he was perplexed. You have come here as my mother, but at the same time, your intent is to kill me? And Putana was also perplexed. She had this premonition that she had come to kill this child, but she had this premonition that he's going to end up killing her. And the analogy that is used by Shukadev Goswami of sometimes picking up a rope, thinking it is a rope, only to find out later on it's a snake. So this analogy is used to depict her perplexity. So he sees her and immediately the Lord closes his eyes. So we're going to get into the 5 different meanings that both Jiva Goswami and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur give as to why the Lord closed his eyes. And then we'll also go into Srila Prabhupada's explanations about why the Lord closes his eyes that Prabhupada gives in the Krishna book that he writes. So Krishna, the first reason, Krishna as a child wanted to inform her that he was afraid of her. You are a stranger showing up in my house. I don't know you. And if I appear confident to you, you may never approach me to do your whatever it is that you had come to plan to kill me. So Krishna deliberately expresses fear to give Putana confidence to approach him. And therefore, he closes his eyes after he expresses his fear. Out of fear, sometimes children close their eyes when they're afraid of things. So like this, the Lord was encouraging her to come to him. Another reason given is that he did not want to create any auspicious atmosphere, given the fact that Putana had actually come to try to kill him, and by opening his eyes and glancing at her, he did not want to create an auspicious scene for the killing that is about to happen. Therefore, he closes his eyes. The third reason, he knew he was going to kill. Therefore, he did not want to see such an inauspicious personality as Putana. So he considered Putana to be inauspicious, and therefore the Lord closes his eyes. She is not pure. The Lord gives his darshan to whoever he benedicts as per his mercy. The fourth reason given by Vishwanath Chakravarti Prabhupada is that he was apprehensive that his first killing was going to be of a woman. Our Shastras say that one must not kill a child, one must not kill a woman, one must not kill a Brahmana, one must not kill a cow, and one must not kill an elderly. These are considered to be the most abominable sins that one can commit, is the killing of these categories of people. And therefore, Krishna closes his eyes, knowing that he is going to apparently violate the Vedic injunction by killing a woman. The fifth reason given is that he closes his eyes because he did not want to see the inauspiciousness of her impending death. And Srila Prabhupada gives 3 reasons in his Krishna book. He says that the Lord closes his eyes to reassure Putana in case she had developed any doubts about picking up Krishna and placing him on her lap. And the second reason is the reason that we just spoke about, that the Vedic scriptures say that there are certain categories of human beings that should not be killed. And the third reason that Prabhupada gives in the Krishna book is that he closes his eyes because he took Putana to be his nurse. So Putana has picked up Lord Krishna and placed him on her lap, thinking she's about to kill him. But she doesn't know that this is not a rope on her lap, it's a snake that's going to devour her shortly. So what happens? She's entered the house, she's picked up the Lord, she's placed him on her lap, and Mother Yashoda and Rohini are right there. They are so overwhelmed by her beauty. They were so mesmerized by her presence. So externally, she was looking like she was a very affectionate mother. And she was about to shower her love and affection on Mother Yashoda's baby. And therefore, they don't stop her. They stay silent. And at that time, Shukadev Goswami says, this fiercely dangerous Rakshashi took Krishna on her lap and forces her breast into his mouth. The nipples of her breast was smeared with a dangerous, effective poison that would immediately kill the child. And then Shukadev Goswami says, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, becoming very angry at her, took hold of her breast, squeezed it very hard with both hands, and sucked out the poison and her life. Why was the Lord angry with Putana? Because she had come to nurse him. So the Acharyas say the Lord was exhibiting his anger with Putana because he remembered how many children she had killed unnecessarily. So the Lord was reminded about what she had done, using the same technique that she was applying on him by forcefully feeding him. So when this happens, Shukadev Goswami says in the 11th shloka, unbearably pressed in every vital point, the demon Putana began to cry, please leave me, please leave me. Suck my breast no longer. Perspiring, her eyes wide and her arms and legs flailing, she cried very loudly again and again. She could not tolerate the pain that the Lord was inflicting upon her. And she's telling the Lord, leave me, leave me. But Krishna is thinking, but then you came to feed me. Why are you asking me to leave you? I am accepting your milk. That's what you came to do. I'm taking your milk. But the inner core of your heart is so rotten. I'm also taking the poison out of you. What's your problem? Why are you asking me to leave you? So if the Lord captures somebody and if he doesn't want to leave them, well, the other person doesn't have a choice. So Putana goes running out of the house, screaming. And when she runs out of the house, Shukadeva Goswami says, the earth with its mountains and outer space with its planets trembled. The lower planets and all the directions vibrated, and people fell down in fear that something was about to hit them. So in this way, the demon Putana, very much aggrieved because her breast was being attacked by the Lord, lost her life. So what is fascinating is that the Lord orchestrates this in such a way that he forces Putana to lose her life, not inside the house, not even outside the house, not even in their own village. The pain is so excruciating that Putana flies up into the air and outside Gokul and lands far away from where the residents of Gokul stayed. And it is explained that, remember, she comes in the disguise of a beautiful woman. And it is said that those who have these mystic powers of being able to change their bodies, they cannot hold on to that power when their life is threatened. Therefore, Putana assumes her real form. Her real form. And she collapses in a patch that is the garden of Kamsa. And it is said that the plants had very, very beautiful fruits growing on them. They were just crushed. And Shukadev Goswami says, O King Parikshit, when the gigantic body of Putana fell to the ground, it smashed all the trees within a limit of 12 miles. That means Putana's body was so huge. She assumed her real form of being 12 miles in length. Appearing in a gigantic body, she was certainly extraordinary. And then Shukadev Goswami describes her body in graphic detail that when you read it, it sounds very grotesque. So in shlokas 15 to 17, Shukadev Goswami describes Putana. The Rakshashi's mouth was full of teeth, each resembling the front of a plow. Her nostrils were deep like mountain caves, and her breast resembled big slabs of stone fallen from a hill. Her scattered hair was the color of copper. The sockets of her eyes appeared like deep blind wells. Her fearful thighs resembled the banks of a river. Her arms, legs, and feet seemed like bridges, and her abdomen appeared like a dried up lake. So hearing this thunderous sound of the body collapsing, the cowherd men and women, they were already shocked by the Rakshashi screaming. And when they saw this huge body falling, they were even more terrified. And then what happens? The body collapses and they're running towards the body. And what do they see? Without fear, the child Krishna was playing on the upper portion of Putana Rakshashi's breast. And when the gopis saw the child's wonderful activities, they immediately came forward with jubilation and picked him up. And soon thereafter, Mother Yashoda and Rohini, along with the other elderly gopis, waved about the switch of a cow to give protection to the child, Sri Krishna. So they were taking the tail of the cow and protecting Krishna. They were so afraid and at the same time so thankful that their baby Krishna was safe. The supreme controller of the universe was being protected through mantras and tantras by the gopis. And then Shukadev Goswami, in 3-4 shlokas, actually many shlokas, he talks about exactly what all they did to protect the Lord. They washed the Lord with cow urine, then they smeared him with the dust raised by the hoofs of the cows. And then they took the cow dung and were applying tilak on the Lord's body, reciting the Lord's own names. The Lord was being protected by his devotees, reciting his own holy names. So the Lord was being protected by his own names, being recited by the gopis. So on the 12 different parts of the body where you apply tilak, the gopis applied cow dung tilak on baby Krishna, and they were reciting those 12 mantras as they were applying the tilak. Shukadev Goswami says, in this way, the child was given protection. Then the gopis do achaman, putting a drop of water on your right hand. They purified their hands. And then they recite the Nyasa mantra. This Nyasa mantra, I was just reading up about what was this Nyasa mantra. This Nyasa mantra is actually tantric mantras that you touch a particular points in the body and recite that particular mantra that is supposed to protect that particular part of the body. So the gopis were reciting the Nyasa mantra by touching the various parts of the Lord's body. And then they started calling out the names of Lord Vishnu. May Aja protect your legs. May Maniman protect your knees. Yajna, your thighs. Achyuta, the upper part of your waist. Hayagriva, your abdomen. May Keshava protect your heart. Isha, your chest. The sun god, your neck. Vishnu, your arms. Urukrama, your face. And Ishvara, your head. May Chakri protect you from the front. May Sri Hari Gadhadari, the carrier of the club, protect you from the back. And may the carrier of the bow, who is known as the enemy of Madhu, and Lord Ajana, the carrier of the sword, protect your two sides. May Lord Urugaya, the carrier of the conch shell, protect you from all corners. May Upendra protect you from above. May Garuda protect you on the ground. And may Lord Haladhara, the Supreme Person, protect you on all sides. To the gopis, the Lord was precious to them. They were in anxiety that their baby Krishna had come in harm's way and they needed to do anything and everything to protect the Supreme Lord by simply reciting the holy names of the Lord to protect him. And they go on. May Hrishikesha protect your senses and Narayana your life air. May the master of Shweta Dvipa protect the core of your heart, and may Lord Yogeshwara protect your mind. May Lord Prishni Garbha protect your intelligence, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead your soul. They are praying to Paramatma, asking Paramatma to protect himself. While you are playing, may Govinda protect you. And while you are sleeping, may Madhava protect you. May Lord Vaikunta protect you while you are walking. And may Lord Narayana, the husband of the goddess of fortune, protect you while you're sitting. Similarly, may Lord Yajna-bhuk, the fearful enemy of all evil planets, always protect you while you enjoy life. So like this, the gopis spent time reciting various mantras to protect their precious bundle, baby Krishna. So it's not just Mother Yashoda and Rohini were doing this. All the elderly gopis who had absolute love for Krishna were engaged in these activities. So Shukadeva Goswami says, all the gopis headed by Mother Yashoda were bound by maternal affection. After they thus chanted mantras to protect the child, Mother Yashoda feeds Lord Krishna and then puts him down to sleep. So because the Lord has now accepted the milk of his own mother, she was assured that he was okay. Nothing had happened to him. So meanwhile, the cowherd men return from Mathura. And what do they see? They see this gigantic body of Putana lying dead. And they were struck with wonder. And it is said that Nanda Maharaj gets a little confused. He had never seen this, such a gigantic form before. And he was thinking, where did she come from? Did she just fall from the sky? Because as far as I know, she was not anywhere near our village. Or am I dreaming? Am I an illusion? Have I come to the wrong village? So this is how Nanda Maharaj and the cowherd men were simply struck with great wonder just to see this gigantic body laying on the ground. His Holiness Bhakti Rasamrita Maharaj, in one of his lectures, he says, actually Putana had received blessings from Durvasha Muni once. And because of that, she has this ability to practice these mystic powers. but she was actually a very evil woman. Of course, if we go back to another pastime of the Lord with Bali Maharaj, it is said that Putana was earlier Ratnamala. In some Shastras, Ratnamala is known to be the sister of Bali Maharaj, and in another Shastras, she's referred to as the daughter of Bali Maharaj. So anyway, when Vamanadev appears for the first time and asks for 3 steps of land, he is so exquisitely beautiful that Ratnamala gets immediately attracted to the Supreme Lord, and she thinks, oh, how I wish I could feed this child as if he were my own infant. He's exquisitely beautiful as Vamana. But then, after the Lord takes those 3 giant steps, she gets extremely frustrated, extremely angry with what the Lord did to her brother. And she immediately thinks, if this were my child, I would kill him. So both her desires to want to be the mother of the Supreme Lord, while at the same time wanting to kill him, was fulfilled by Lord Krishna in her form as Putana. So, in a few more shlokas, what Shukadev will conclude in just another 10 minutes. So, Shukadev Goswami talks about how the Brajavasis cut this body of Putana into various pieces because it was so huge. They used huge axes to cut the body into pieces. They threw it far away, covered the body parts with wood, and burnt it to ashes. And then Shukadev Goswami talks about what is the result of this wonderful, wonderful Leela of the Lord. We'll read that. So in Shloka 34, Shukadev Goswami writes, because of Krishna's having sucked the breast of the Rakshashi Putana, when Krishna killed her, she was immediately freed of all material contamination. Immediately. Her sinful reactions automatically vanished. And therefore, when her gigantic body was being burnt, the smoke emanating from her body was fragrant like aguru incense. Now, in the Ishopanishad, there is a particular mantra that talks about the qualities, the various qualities of the Lord that are recognized by a Mahabhagavata or a pure devotee. So there are qualities that say that the Lord is omnipotent, and the Sanskrit word for that is Shukram. The Lord does not have veins, Ashnaviram. That the Lord is Shuddham. And Prabhupada translates the word Shuddham as antiseptic. Then the next, another word that is used to describe the Lord is Apapa Viddham. And Srila Prabhupada translates that particular word to prophylactic. So, which is antiseptic and prophylactic. The Lord is antiseptic and prophylactic, which means when you refer to the Lord as Shuddham, anybody who comes into contact with the Lord, no matter how impure they are, they will get purified simply by coming into contact with the Lord. And what does this word apapa viddham mean? It means that impurity that comes into contact with the Lord does not pollute the Lord. So here, simply because she had come with an intent to be for a minute the mother of Lord Krishna, Lord Krishna simply accepts her as his nurse. Although he kills her, simultaneously he frees her of all material contaminations. We'll go into the purports because Prabhupada writes, if a demon who had nothing but envy for the Lord came to kill him, if she gets liberated, what to speak of devotees who do nothing but express their love and devotion and affection for the Lord day in and day out? Will the Lord not do more for his devotees than what he does for the Asuras? This is a question of faith that the Lord will protect us if we are sincere. And therefore, our Shastras say anybody who is a devotee of Krishna is fearless, will not have anxiety, because they know the Lord is there for them. So Putana was always hankering for the blood of human children. And with that desire, she came to kill Krishna. But because she offered her breast to the Lord, she attained the greatest achievement. Do you know where she went? She actually enters Golok Vrindavan, not the Brahma Jyoti, not the Vaikuntha planets. She enters Golok Vrindavan. And she takes the form of being like his mother. And Shukadev Goswami is asking the question, what then is to be said of those who had natural devotion and affection for Krishna as mothers and who offered him their breast to suck or offered something very dear as a mother offers something to a child? So Shukadev Goswami is asking, if we have so much love and affection for Krishna, and if we offer something to the Lord with such love and affection, can you imagine what Lord Krishna's response will be to that? If his response to somebody who had come to kill him was to purify her, what then to speak of those who genuinely love him? So the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is always situated within the core of the heart of the pure devotee. And he is always offered prayers by such worshipable personalities as Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. Because Krishna embraced, this is Shukadev Goswami speaking, because Krishna embraced Putana's body with great pleasure and sucked her breast, although she was a great witch, she attained the position of a mother in the transcendental world and thus achieved the highest perfection. And again, Shukadev Goswami is asking another question. What then is to be said of the cows whose nipples Krishna sucked with great pleasure and who offered their milk very jubilantly with affection, exactly like that of a mother? The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the bestower of many benedictions, including liberation or oneness with the Brahman effulgence. For that personality of Godhead, the gopis always felt maternal love, and Krishna sucked their breasts with full satisfaction. Therefore, because of their relationship as mother and son, although the gopis were engaged in various family activities, one should never think that they return to this material world after leaving their bodies. Meaning, all the gopis who showered their love and affection on the Lord as his mother, the Lord took them back with him when he left. Vrindavan was empty when the Lord left. There was no Jivatma left there, because everybody got benedicted by the Lord's presence. So we'll come to the last shloka, the importance of hearing, listening to this particular pastime of the Lord, of the killing of the demon Putana. This is the Falashruti of us having heard this wonderful pastime for the last hour. Any person who hears with faith and devotion about how Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, killed Putana, and who thus invests in his hearing in such childhood pastimes of Krishna, certainly attains attachment for Govinda, the Supreme Original Person. So Shukadev Goswami is saying, if we have heard this particular pastime of the Lord, and by hearing this pastime, if we are attracted to other childhood pastimes of the Lord, he is saying we will certainly attain attachment for Govinda, the Supreme Original Person. So hearing about the Lord's pastimes is very purifying for us. Although it may seem like a make-believe, sometimes a fantasy, it's not. So this kind of hearing about the Lord's Leelas is purifying, and at the same time, one gets more and more and more attracted to the Supreme Lord. So Putana, the Acharyas say, has rendered indirect, inadvertent service to the Lord. She didn't intend to serve the Lord. Her service was accidental. And for accidental service to the Lord, she gets liberation. Her body gets purified and she gets the spiritual destination. And therefore, Shukadev Goswami asks, then what to speak of devotees who genuinely have love, faith, affection, and devotion for the Supreme Lord Krishna? Will the Lord not come to get us? If only we could have pure love for him, right? So this is the beauty about hearing the Lord's pastimes. It purifies us, and it also simultaneously increases our attraction for the Lord. We'll stop here for the day. Vancha kalpadarupyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Gurudev ki jai. Hare Krishna.